Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
My name is James.
And I'm Colin.
and this is where we talk all things Star Wars. It's David, James, Colin again, the original three.
The OGs.
Kind of strange. We haven't done this in a while, all three of us together. But I'm glad to be here with y'all.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
it's
is gonna
yeah.
be exciting.
been a
It's gonna be a
while.
lot of fun today. I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I'm drinking a Monster right now. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a monster, huh? I was gonna...
Monster James incoming. So before we get started, we definitely do want to recognize our awesome Patreon support. We probably have some in the chat right now. On the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Sean Greathouse, Zach Netzel, and Mariana Atia Arnold. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Maya Morris. On the black tier, we have Maka Tautala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, Liam McCallion, and Texas Vader 76. Thank you so much for all your awesome support. We love you guys. And I also want to give a couple of other special shout outs. One to Tim Seitz, who is the meme lord on Facebook. He drops so many memes in the Star Wars Stuff Podcast Facebook
Every day.
group.
every day.
Yeah, and everything that I invite him to, he accepts the invite, and he's always dropping stuff. Yeah, I think he lives out in California, where you live, James. And
Nice.
yeah, you guys should totally meet up.
Yeah, we should.
So
great.
I wanted to address something. It's very controversial. It's been happening for 5 years. Every time that I mention Max Rebo, James rolls his eyes. James, why do you not like Max Rebo? Like, is it because he's blue? Is it because he worked for Jabba? Like, why?
It's because he worked for Jabba. No. Honestly, it's
The job's a job, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
geez, come on, man.
I'll never get over that shirt where it's the Max Rebo band tour, Galaxy tour.
Yep,
And like
I
the
got
first gig was Jabba's Palace.
Yeah.
So they never played anywhere else. But no, honestly, it's just I enjoy watching you defend Max Rebo. Like, for me, that just makes me laugh. So I always do my best to see
Okay.
how far I can push Colin to
Okay.
really
All right.
really dive into Max Rebo and why Max Rebo is the best.
Yeah.
Good
Evan
evening.
Opaker, our awesome patron, is in the chat. We met him in London. It was so awesome to meet up with him.
Yeah.
Kind of wish we spent more time with him, but yeah, it was crazy. It was hectic. But yeah, thanks, Evan, so much for all the support. Also,
Now-
the other
yeah.
person I want to give a shout out to is Jordan
shout-outs.
Tyndall. He was at I think you might have met him, James. He was or maybe you were gone. He showed up as Vader in the 501st.
Oh, I must have missed him.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Jordan, he actually listens to us when he goes on long road trips and every other time. I think he listens to the podcast all the time. But yeah, he's a real good friend of mine in the 501st, and he was actually on my very first troop when we trooped the Best Buy physical media drop of Solo. And yeah, he was a trooper. He was a TK. I was a TIE pilot, of course. But yeah, he has like 9 different costumes. So he's like a big time Star Wars fan. Plus, we did an Our Stories, which he's like, can I get the video file for that? And I'm like trying to find it on my laptop, and it's like impossible for some reason. My MacBook is just not cooperating. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to Jordan. So
Nice.
thanks for all the listens and the friendship, man. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. It's our first topic is kind of concerning. It has to do with I think a lot of the news that everyone's kind of hearing about.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it has to do a lot with it has a huge impact, I think, on the future of Star Wars, and I think there's going to be huge domino effect. I think a lot of the series and films, possibly, which would be horrible, might get delayed even more. So it's essentially the SAG-AFTRA strike that's happening. And this story comes to us via Bespin Bulletin, and it's kind of lengthy, but it's very detailed. And I just want everyone to kind of get in that headspace of knowing the details on this current actor strike is. So I'm going to read a bit of the article here. So this says, a couple days ago, the contract between SAG-AFTRA and the Hollywood studios came to an end at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, and a new deal failed to be struck. Following, SAG-AFTRA and its members are now officially on strike and hitting the picket line. So what does it mean for Star Wars? SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, also includes radio, which represent 160,000 actors, has voted unanimously to strike amid failed talks with the Hollywood studios being represented by the AMPTP. Members of SAG-AFTRA will join the Striking Writers Guild of Hollywood, who are on day 73 of their strike with no end date in sight on the picket line, and will result in Hollywood itself almost shutting down completely. The impact of the strike will be felt across the globe, as the strike will shut down films and scripted television series that employ SAG-AFTRA members around the world, and not just in the United States. However, soap operas will not be impacted, as they fall under a different contract.
Oh, thank God.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Okay.
Good to know that.
So
I-
Disney
Yeah.
CEO Bob Iger, who is looking to potentially earn $27 million this year, says that both the Actors and Writers Guild are being unrealistic in regards to their demand.
Whoa.
So Bob Iger says there's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they're adding to the set of the challenges that this business already is facing. That is, quite frankly, very disruptive. Iger's recently extended contract at Disney could see him earn an annual bonus or bonuses of up to 5 times more than before.
That's
So this
gross.
brings us to the question: what does the strike mean for Star Wars franchise, which has various projects in development and are gearing up to release 2 series this year? Members of SAG-AFTRA must immediately stop work on a film or TV set and cannot continue until an agreement is reached between the union and the Hollywood studios. This means that if a TV series or a film is currently in the midst of shooting, those actors represented by the union must halt work. Currently, there's only one Star Wars project filming, Andor Season 2, which has been shooting since November and is aiming to wrap sometime in August. Any actors part of SAG-AFTRA must immediately stop work, and this will likely lead into delays in production and/or production being stopped until an agreement between the union and studios is reached. However, one production unrelated to Star Wars that is filming in the United Kingdom, just like Andor, Season 2 is the second season of The House of the Dragon, which will continue to film despite the SAG-AFTRA strike. According to Variety, as the HBO series is composed of mostly British actors that are working under contracts governed by the UK Union Equity, and because of this, filming is technically allowed to continue, as equity members are not legally allowed to strike in solidarity with the SAG-AFTRA. Variety added that strict union laws in the United Kingdom are preventing an extensive show of solidarity from equity, who can't legally call a strike due to restrictive UK legislation. It's unknown if this will play any part in Andor's production, as many British actors are involved in the series. So, guys, what do you think about the strike? How it affects Star Wars?
Yeah,
Bob
well-
Iger's statement.
Something else that is going to that is definitely going to affect Star Wars going forward is something that Bob Iger said as well, which is that he blames too many Star Wars and Marvel Disney Plus shows for weakening the audience focus and attention.
Yeah, that's a separate story we're going to talk about later.
Well, right, but I'm mentioning that because that's going to add to affecting Star Wars going forward. You have to think of, which I know James can probably relate to this because of he is in that, like, that's what he does for a living, and I can't even imagine of what's going through people's heads. But what Bob Iger said, I think he, I don't know. I just think things should run their course. I don't think he should have said that. I think I felt like that was kind of out of place. I mean, how do you feel about it, James?
Yeah, him. What's really funny is, when the Writers Guild, when they first went on strike, some of the big timers were like, "This is ridiculous what they're asking for," and it's like, you guys are making millions a year,
Yeah.
and you're complaining that writers want just a little bit more. And then actors, same thing. And then he, Bob Iger did not look good with these statements.
No.
Considering he just extended his contract and he's going to be getting even more as a bonus. It's like I don't know. It's all a mess, and it really sucks because a lot of people I know that all the work has stopped now. Like everybody is like, okay, we're not going into work. And even movies like Oppenheimer and Barbie, they were on the red carpet, but then after that, they had to stop because they cannot be they can't be at events like that anymore because of the strike. So the fact that this is happening, the fact that we have 3 Star Wars movies about to go into production or, pre-production, it's kind of scary thinking we're not going to see this first one until maybe 2027 or 2028.
Yeah,
Like
it's
these
definitely
movies,
pushed back.
these movies are going to get pushed back. There's no way they're not going to be pushed back unless by some miracle the scripts are written, they're able to build the sets already, because those unions are still working. Those guys could still work, but it just sucks that your talent, the main focus of what we're all doing here, is not there. Um, yeah, it's just really really upsetting that this is all happening right now. And like I said, Bob Iger's state, and it's not just him. Others have come out and said similar things. It just this does not look good
No.
in this situation, and I'm a little upset at my good friend Bob Iger for what he said about what he said about that. Yeah, that's my
Talk
opinion.
some sense into Bob, James.
I know. Next time I see him, I'm like, hey man, come on, dude. You can't be doing an interview on a freaking resort, you know, talking about this thing. That was
Yeah,
funny. That interview is like in a nice place, and it's like a resort that costs I don't know how much money to stay there. And he was like, yeah, I'm gonna do my interview here and talk to people.
yeah. It's just that it just doesn't sound like they're. I think they're kind of, which I know David said it's a different topic, and we'll talk about it. But it's just like there were a lot of things in that interview where I was like, "Is this Bob Iger? Is this like it didn't sound like him." Because you have to think this is the guy that pushed for the MCU. He pushed for Star Wars, also the studio Pixar, like very big studios to do more projects. And now he's doing it's like he's going backwards and being like, all right, let's take a step back. So no, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting take on his part. I just didn't think he would say any of that stuff. And I know some people are very different about it, but yeah.
It almost feels like I totally agree with what you're saying, Colin. It feels like you could cut Iger and replace it with Chapek. It feels like a Chapek statement more than an Iger type statement.
Yeah,
It does feel like
true.
it's like what happened to Bob? I mean, it's
So here's what I think. Okay, so I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves with this, but here's the crazy thing is, I think COVID ruined a lot of things for every company, not just
Yeah.
Disney. Yeah, but a lot of companies are still trying to play catch up to what was lost during COVID. Um, and so the fact that this is happening, I can understand. Maybe I'm not siding with Iger, but I'm just saying this is probably Disney's like thing, which is like, man, we're trying to get back on track, and you guys are not going to take the little bit of money we're trying to get. You know what I mean? They're like, just take this little bit of money so we can make more movies, and then we can make more money. So they're all, and it's really funny because they're all frustrated about this, and it's like, well, if you just pay them a little bit more,
Yeah.
pay them what they're owed, it'll make everything better. Because these movies cost, what was it? Indiana Jones was almost 300 million to make, which
And
is
they made 130 million that opening weekend.
yeah. So
He was blaming. Oh, okay. So sorry, I just have to say this because of during the interview, he blamed Disney Plus for some of those films not doing well in the box office because of Disney Plus. And I'm like, Indiana Jones had nothing to do with that. Now, if you were talking about like some of the Marvel shows, maybe because they did go over the top with those Marvel shows. There were a lot of Marvel shows. Star Wars, I think, is the right amount. And I'm not trying to sound biased because we are a Star Wars podcast, but with Marvel, there was at least 14 14 Marvel projects. Like,
There's a lot.
yeah, like last year alone, and for Star Wars, it looks like we're starting to head in the right direction. But honestly, the amount of Star Wars that we've been getting, I think, is the right amount. We aren't going over the top with these, like, with a show happening right after another. There are those nice breaks. And with Marvel, it's like, all right, we just got done with She-Hulk. Now let's go to Miss Marvel. And you're just like, okay. I'm not sure if that's the correct order, but it's just like, there is truth to what he's saying, but you can't compare Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones had nothing to do with the streaming service. The only thing that Indiana Jones, might have done is like it was out of the Disney Plus. Now they're on Disney Plus now, including the Young Adventures of Indiana Jones. But I don't think a new movie had anything to do with that. I think that you took Steven Spielberg, you took away his freedom on the project, and you were giving him strict guidelines on how to make the movie, and you can't do that with the Indiana Jones movie. And they were okay, well, all right, Steven, what do you want to do? And he was like, okay, well, I really don't want to direct it. So then they gave it to James Mangold, and then you had Steven Spielberg take that executive producer position. And you definitely see how different it is when Steven Spielberg is not in the director's chair.
Mhm.
And to me, that is what affected it, because the original script had more involvement with Marion than her small cameo that she did in the final cut of the film. And that's because they took Spielberg out and they wanted to go a different route. And that's the big thing going forward, is like with these films, is you'll definitely hire people like Phil Lord and all those people for Solo, and then you have hire Colin Trevorrow as well. But then you take the freedom away and you give them more strict guidelines, then they're not going to want to do the projects. So I think that they pitched something to them and then they kind of change the guidelines going forward in the projects, and that's what drives the original directors away, or the original people working on the project, and then you get what we get. And I think that's something that they need to work on going forward. And they didn't really put any restrictions on the Marvel shows for Disney Plus. I think that was a big thing. So honestly, the ball is in their court, and they're trying to blame other things when in reality it is on them. And I don't think they're taking responsibility for their actions when they should.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, the pandemic, of course, is a major factor, and the fact that streaming kind of is this big kind of experiment to try and make more money, of course, because that's really the goal of corporations, is to make more money. And it's not really working out now. I mean, it seems like everything as far as like subscriptions have plateaued, or with losing subscribers essentially, and it's not the best way to make money for these studios and for these corporations. And they figure that out. You see less now on streaming, and there's a lot to the fact that you've conditioned the public now to think I can skip the theater and just wait for streaming, and that's a huge disadvantage, because I mean they're not going to make that money on ticket sales at the box office in comparison to what they can make, what they're not making with just getting the whatever it is we pay for Disney Plus or Max. I mean, it's a flat fee, and you're not making that extra money. Back in like the 90s, early 2000s, movies had so much life. They had life at the box office, and they had life on physical media, on DVD, on VHS. Now you can't really depend on that anymore. And the CEOs and all the executives want to still be paid the same. But now we have the situation we're in now, where we have a huge pay gap. And what this Facebook user just said, Sean Gunn said it on the picket line that back before we had streaming, essentially, CEOs were making maybe 30 times more than the lowest paid worker. Now, in Bob Iger's reality, he's making 400 times the lowest paid worker. So yeah, there's a big disparity there. And yeah, 27 million a year is a lot of money. For someone that doesn't create anything, that they essentially oversee and manage and make like the final decision and write their name on the checks. I mean, Bob Iger had, to me, he had such a wonderful opportunity to kind of swoop in and do something drastic that he probably had the power to do, but he just didn't do it. Because if you think about it, he was already retired. I mean, did he need this money anymore? I know. I mean, 27 million extra dollars in 2 more years, 3 more years. I mean, he already had as much money as he really needed because he was retiring. But see, also the other thing that's in play is a lot of people think he's going to run for like political office too. So we don't know what that strategy is all about, if that's even a thing, but he's always denied it. So
that would be interesting.
yeah. The prediction is he might run for president. So it's
whoa.
Yeah, we just don't know all those different factors that come into play. But it's like, man, the statement. Yeah, we're going into the other topic here, but yeah, it's wild that he made that statement. But going back to the actors, though, the actors in England, yes, they're some of them are part of a different guild in comparison to what the American actors are, but it's still shutting down Andor season 2, whether they are or they aren't. So that shut down, and that's going to be one of the most anticipated second seasons. It should be bigger, it should be faster, more intense. Favorite characters are returning, allegedly, so it's just a bad situation. And the writer strike was still ongoing, and then the actors joined them. So we're just kind of like in a mess right here. It's a standstill. Star Wars is going to be affected. All your favorite IP is going to be affected. Marvel, DC, whatever you like or love, it's going to put a halt to things. And there was another statement that was put out. I don't think it was by Iger, but someone told, I guess this was through a source or something via like the AP, but there's an executive that made the statement of, oh yeah, we're just kind of waiting. We're waiting them out until they either lose their housing or they just quit or something. And that's like not the way to go. It doesn't make any sense because all the actors are all the creatives, all the people that do the thing that's making you crazily rich. So it's like, wouldn't you want to just take care of them just a little bit more and give them a livable wage so that they could actually do the thing they love? And the money's there, essentially. It's a huge disconnect.
I definitely think if this goes long enough, if this goes into the next year, you have to think about, there's a lot of films that are coming out right now, but if they keep going the way that they are, Deadpool probably won't come out next year. All the big movies will probably get pushed back, and then next year's going to be a big flop, and that's going to hit the entire film industry so hard. And they are going to have to make a decision real quick because they're running out of time for a couple of these release dates for these movies. And then you also, not just the movies coming out next year, but you have to think about going forward as well. Like for all the new upcoming Star Wars movies, for all the new upcoming Star Wars shows, Marvel especially. There's a lot to me. There's a lot of things on stake here, and they have to make a decision real quick of how they're just going to bring this home, because if they don't, it's going to affect a lot of different businesses. And I'm not just talking about just like, actors and and the writers and everything, but this is going to hit also a bunch of the movie theaters as well. Like, you have to think about it. People are the main way they make money is people going to the movies and seeing them and paying, like these different streaming services. And if there's no new stuff coming out, people can't go to the movies unless they, play old ones. And as much as great as the classics are, people love going to the movies to see new movies. So they're running out of time.
Or do they? I mean, I mean, I know you said you don't really agree, but I kind of think, man, the streaming has messed up a lot of things. Like David was saying, people will watch a movie comes out, and then they're just like, oh, well, it's going to be out on Disney Plus or it's going to be on HBO in
Yeah.
like a month. So I'm just going to wait for it to come out. And then and that affects movies tremendously now. This is a weird thing that the 2020s will be remembered as a weird time for the movie industry. Even if I hope we get out of this, but every movie that's coming out, is that supposed to come out next year is not going to come out next year. I'm
No,
already gonna say
absolutely
that.
not.
Everything is being pushed back. So this is going to be a very strange time, and maybe by like 2026, 27, we may be back on track. But it's
Yeah.
going to be a weird time in the next few years about this event.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so hopefully they get everything together because as y'all know, I am moving to Hollywood and I would like to, get a good job while I'm
Yeah.
there. And it's kind of funny that this is all happening at this exact moment. So it's
Yep.
like, come on. And I heard that the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild have not been on strike together since the 60s. So it's been that long since both of those guilds have been on strike.
It's a crazy time.
It is a weird time. So let's hope that the executives and the SAG can all reach an agreement and everybody gets back to work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And now on to the Bob Iger story.
Well, I mean, I feel like we kind of, which is, my fault because I jumped the gun, but it's, yeah. How do you guys feel about that?
So in case y'all don't know, he has said that he wants to slow down Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, and mind you, I'm like, you've already slowed down Star Wars pretty drastically, but he wants to slow down Marvel, which I will admit, Marvel hasn't been hitting strong since Endgame. Like you've had maybe one or two movies since Endgame that have been really great.
I can tell you why though.
Why?
For Marvel, you had the home run cast that was Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth. You had that original team, and then you end their journey. But in a way, you're still continuing their journey by, it's not even that they're doing a soft reboot, but they're, I mean, they are continuing the story of Marvel with different characters that have very similar powers. So you have Captain America, but it's not Steve Rogers, it's Sam Wilson. You have a Hulk, but it's not Bruce Banner, it's his cousin. And then you just have so many similar characters coming in where it feels like they're recasting them, but basically they're very similar to the characters that were before them. And and with all the shows that they're doing for Marvel, it's not that it's a lot, it's just the choices are very interesting. And I understand that they're trying to do the whole multiverse thing going forward. And I think Deadpool 3 will definitely be a great way to bring a lot of our dreams to light for like the X-Men franchise and stuff like that. And having Hugh Jackman come back as a different version of the Wolverine is going to be great. But I'm just doing that with Star Wars is different because I think he's putting Marvel and Star Wars in the same category. But in reality, if you think about it, all the Star Wars shows and movies are not as much as they've been doing with Marvel. Marvel's been a lot. They had a lot of projects come out last year, which was crazy. And they had a decent amount come out this year. And then you have Star Wars, where it's not even close to the level that they have Marvel on. But Bob Iger is trying to put Star Wars in the category, which I think which is incorrect. I think he should mainly maybe lower the level of how much stuff they put for Marvel. But for Star Wars, I think they shouldn't go more than what they are now. I think they should keep at the pace that they're going. Because if they slow down, it's definitely going to hurt them in the long run. Because if you think about it, when the sequels first came back, You had Force Awakens, it was great, and then you had Star Wars Rebels coming out at the same time, and then and that was like the main focus, and you had like the original Star Wars Battlefront and stuff, but then you had and then going forward in 2019, you had the launch of Disney Plus, you had the Mandalorian, and that was promising. Now, if you slow down and you're like, what, I'm just going to focus mainly on film, as much as I think Star Wars belongs in the cinema, in the long run, I think keeping with the pace that they are with the Star Wars shows, I think is perfect. I don't think it's over the top. I don't think it's even close to Marvel. I don't like that he's comparing the pace that the Star Wars is going to Marvel, because Marvel is over the scale. You have shows coming out left and right, characters that we don't even have time to fall in love with, and then you just give them a whole show and you're just like, okay, hang on, just slow down, just slow down. And they're not doing that, and I just don't like how he's putting Star Wars in that category of the way that Marvel is, like all the Marvel shows are going.
Yeah, when I was younger, it felt like I waited years for movies to be on physical media that I could actually watch at home. And now it's startling to like turn around and be like, that was just in the theater, or it's still in the theater. It's like it's already on digital. It's like it's such a weird world now that we live in comparison to when I was growing up and I was dying to see them at home. Now everyone just gets them right away, and there has to be some type of, if there's not already, some type of alliance between all these studios and say, hey, look, we need to retrain the public here. We need to stop dropping all this stuff on streaming and like have some like pause, take a breath, take a beat, and just wait, and don't have the public treat the theater experience as something a little bit more special than it is now. It is already special. It's awesome to go to the theater and everything, but I think the general public is just like, I'll just wait to see it in my living room, and I don't have to pay $10 for a hot dog. I mean, it's that whole thing.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons was on what was it, Paramount Plus, like 2 weeks after it was in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And if you subscribe to Paramount Plus, which is like $5.99, now it's $7.99 a month, you could have just watched it. It was there. It was already. You didn't have to pay extra for it. Yeah, I agree with you, David. I think they need to get us back to that old way of, you watch a movie in the summer, you gotta wait till October until it comes out on physical media, and it's just such a strange thing, and it's affecting the movie going experience, and it's affecting how they're making these movies now. Like Iger said, he wants to slow it down because it's not what it used to be, and I don't know. I think it's funny. It's funny that the studios are saying it's not like it used to be, and it's like, well, it's your fault. It's not the way it used to be, but I don't know. So he said he wants to spend less on projects now, because that was kind of what he said. He wants to spend less with less projects.
Right. Well, it to me, it kind of makes sense mathematically, because if you have lesser projects, you can actually spend more on the project, but spend a little bit less per se. But I mean, there's just, it almost feels like we went through a great experiment in a way after we got the sequels, and then we got streaming to see how Disney handled Star Wars, and we got what we got from them. It felt like they rushed out the sequels, and now they're rushing out Marvel series, it seems like, and they're like expending so many assets and like the CGI artists, and you hear stories of them just being worked to exhaustion, and that's the reason why the effects don't look as good anymore. And you go back to look at a film from 1993, Jurassic Park, the effects are flawless because they had all the time necessary to spend on those effects, and they still hold up to this date. Same thing with the Phantom Menace. I mean, those effects like really hold up. But yeah, I mean, it's just so much content that's being launched at our faces, and it's if we could just hold back a little bit and just take a moment and concentrate on a film. I still think a film a year for Star Wars would work.
Yes.
A series or two a year for Star Wars would work. and making it an event. Like Kathleen Kennedy said, we want to eventize Star Wars, even though it really is still an event. You want to make it a bigger event. Yeah, I mean, make it a certain time of year and we can all look forward to it and concentrate all your creative, all your focus on that one project, and it should turn out great. And give the control to the creators. They're the ones that are actually making it.
Yeah.
It's the people that are behind the desk and that are writing the checks. They need to kind of understand that and look at history. Look at Alan Ladd Jr. When he hired George Lucas, he believed in the talent. And he said, well, I don't understand what Star Wars is, but I can spot talent. And I feel like you have the talent. So go do your thing. And George Lucas did his thing until the very last moments. And he went even beyond that to complete Star Wars.
Yeah.
And
it is really strange how it's it's like, you know, it feels like Lucasfilm. I'm not going to say who in Lucasfilm because I don't think it's the people we think, but there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen at Lucasfilm right now. And there's a lot of people trying to put their say in it, and there's a lot happening. And I'm going to say I don't think it is Lucasfilm. I think it might be good old Disney, who's kind of like, hey, this is what we want. This is what we need.
Yeah.
We need this out now because this is surely going to make us 700 million. This is going to make us 800 million dollars. So we need you to hurry up and get this out. We don't care how long it takes. And then it's like, we're going to give you this. Solo underperforms. We're like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. Do something different now. And it's like, well, we have all these projects. Like, no, we're not doing any of that. Switch it all. And it's just really strange. And I feel, and I know this is not a good statement, but I feel like Lucasfilm should be Lucasfilm and be on its own like it was. I think it needs to get away from Disney. I think Disney is what is kind of holding Lucasfilm back from what it could possibly do. I know that sounds bad, but after watching the latest Indiana Jones movie and after hearing the statement from Bob Iger, I'm like, man, Lucasfilm needs to be what it used to be and make these independent films, because that's what Lucasfilm was,
Right.
an independent company. I think we need to go back to that.
So here's my thing is that because Disney has the rights to Lucasfilm and Star Wars and all that, I think they delivered on the promise of all these upcoming Star Wars projects and more Star Wars projects. But what bothers me is Bob wants to go back on his word. He's not going against someone else's word. He's going from his word of the statement that he made, like, you know, if we get Star Wars, there will be a bunch of it, like, and it will be done in a tasteful way. And he said that in the interview back in 2012, I think, of when they were like signing the contract and everything, where George and Kathleen were there. So the fact that he wants to go back on his word of where he's like, hey, we like need to cut back for budget costs. Now that's a big thing as well. It's just like, no, listen, what's happening is one studio that you have is not doing well, but now you want to make other studios suffer because of that one studio. No, that's not how it works. You need to cut back on the one studio that is not doing so well. Keep the way that you're doing things with Lucasfilm. If you change that, that's going to hurt you in the long run. All right? Because Star Wars is big. Marvel is big too, but if you oversell it, then people are like, I mean, if Star Wars was in the same position as Marvel, where they're like, you know what, here is a Gonk droid show, and it shows a Gonk droid just going through all the different eras of Star Wars. And you're like, wow, great background character. Cool, great. And then you have, here is the bartender that owned the cantina. And then he's just, you know, like, and that's what Marvel's doing. They're adding way too many characters. Dial it back, bring it back. And for example, there is the show called Echo, right? That character was introduced in the Hawkeye series. And now, because of everything going on, her show has to suffer, where they are going to put all the episodes of Echo on Disney Plus at once, not weekly, like a normal Disney Plus show. They're putting it all at once, and it's because we didn't have time to fall in love with the character. Like maybe some people did. I genuinely really didn't. So it was very interesting when they were like, here's the show Echo, and then they were like, we're gonna release all the episodes at once, and you're like, why? And then Bob Iger like ended up making the statement. I'm like, okay, that makes sense because they just really want to get the ball rolling like to that plan that he's trying to do. Don't make another studio suffer because another one isn't doing well. That's not fair, in my opinion. I think you should dial it back, work in the studio that's not doing well, and keep the one that is doing well. Lucasfilm is doing well. Just because Indiana Jones, which again, in Indiana Jones didn't do well because of the behind the scenes factor, and it's because they kind of what you and I were saying earlier, James, which is they took away the freedom of the people that were actually working on the projects because they wanted to appeal to certain audiences, which is fine. But also you have to think of the fans. Fans are what makes these movies like, keep going of the Indiana Jones franchise. And it just didn't hit on the level that the studio wanted it to because they didn't listen to the fans and they changed it. And Steven Spielberg left. That's a red flag. That's a big red flag right there. So I think they really need to not make other studios suffer. And by other studios, I mean, it's because of Marvel. That's why he made that statement. Marvel isn't doing well. So now the other studios that they own have to kind of suffer for what's going on with Marvel. That's not the problem, Lucasfilm. They should be separate. I'm with you on that, James. I think Lucasfilm should keep doing what they're doing, but they shouldn't have to suffer for a failure of another studio. I think that's a terrible move, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you brought that up, James, I thought about going to see the Dial of Destiny and seeing the big Disney 100 logo. And I
That
was
was
like, what?
so weird.
I thought it was the start of a trailer, and then it went to
No.
Lucasfilm. I was like, oh my gosh, they actually combined Disney, then Lucasfilm. That was like the first time I think we've seen that. And
that's, I'm seeing
it just kind of goes to show that they kind of know that they shouldn't like oversee as much as they are.
Yeah.
And I think Disney has all the opportunity in the world to treat Lucasfilm like its own like little studio and not mess with it and just sign the checks. It's like if one of you or me won like the Powerball and we won like, let's say $4 billion. So if we won $4 billion, which is not possible, but you go out and buy like a team, like a sports team. Are you going to go coach that team? No, you're not. You're going to let whoever can actually coach and do the work, and you should probably just sign like the checks. Am I right?
You got a point there because was it Buena Vista? Was their
distribution? Yes.
That's 100% Disney, but
Yeah.
they let Buena Vista be its own thing, and they
Right.
released so many movies with Buena Vista, and you never felt it was a Disney, like Disney was overseeing what was happening. It was they were like,
Right.
we're gonna open this company for our more, I don't want to say adult themed, but like more mature. I know it still sounds weird, but and they didn't. Yeah, I know it sounds weird to say that, but they didn't mess with it. They just let Buena Vista do what they did, and a lot of people didn't even know that was in fact Disney's company,
Yeah.
or it was Disney. They need, like you said, they need to do that with Lucasfilm. They need to be like, yeah, we have Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm is doing its own thing, and we're just making sure they have everything they need. We're not gonna we're not gonna like meddle with them. And I think that's what was wrong, was that Iger and all the higher ups were just like, we need that Force Awakens out now. We need that movie out immediately.
Yeah, the shareholders were like, what are you going to do with Star Wars? You paid $4 billion for it, even though they underpaid for it. They got it like on a steal, because if you look at what they paid for 20th Century Fox, they paid like $78 billion. Which was insane.
It's so strange at how crazy it was at the beginning. And the shareholders are like, we need a movie out. We're building a whole park at Disney. We need money to pay for this park, and we need people there. And it just it's I feel like that's a mistake. I feel like Disney should just let Kathleen Kennedy run her business, run Lucasfilm without Disney telling her and telling everyone else what to do. Because David and I heard from somebody, it's kind of a mess. This guy did some work for them, and we're not going to say who he sent it to, but he ended up saying, I can't even talk to anybody at Lucasfilm right now. He said, there's so much chaos right now. I cannot even get this approved right now because of everything that's happening. So yeah, I feel Lucasfilm needs to be left alone and let Kathleen Kennedy do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And because we're never going to know the full story. Maybe one day we're going to hear the whole story of who threw out the scripts, who threw out George Lucas's treatments for 7, 8, and 9. Because he was promised, he was said, we're going to do yours. And then out of nowhere, they were like, nah, we're not going to do your movies. It's just, I don't know. Yep. So that's our opinion. I'm just kidding.
Well, cool. Yeah. I was gonna say, can we get into more like a happier kind of topics?
Here we go. Moving on. So Andor got 8 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Drama Series. However, Diego Luna did not get nominated.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Wait, of what show didn't get nominated?
No, Diego Luna
did not get nominated specifically. But yeah, I mean, a ton of Emmy nominations. I mean, we all kind of saw it coming. 8 Emmy nominations for Andor. Also, with 9 Emmy nominations, The Mandalorian Season 3, which I don't think a lot of people saw that coming, but that happened. And 5 Emmy nominations for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was really shocked Kenobi got 5. But then again, the Emmys are they have so many categories for each show. So there is an opportunity for a show like Obi-Wan to get nominated for limited anthology series. Which
I'm confused because I thought, what's the time frame for nominations for Star Wars shows? Like, because why wasn't Book of Boba Fett on there?
Maybe they just didn't get any.
They didn't get any nominations.
What?
Oh wait, I thought in the Book of Boba Fett would have been
last year?
Last year's.
Yeah, well, because of Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan came out the same year.
Yeah, Book of Boba was before Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so they came out the same year.
Well, those are the Emmy nominations: Andor, Obi-Wan, and Mando Season 3.
Why on earth would Book of Boba get? Okay, now I'm confused.
Very well represented at the Emmys. I'm happy for everyone involved. Tons of nominations for Star Wars, which is a great thing.
Before we go on, Colin, Book of Boba Fett was nominated, but it was
last year.
It was for last year's. They got nominated for sound editing, special effects, which they won, and then what else was there? Outstanding fantasy costumes and stunts.
But then why wasn't Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Because the cutoff. Because remember, Book of Boba Fett aired at the end of 2021.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay,
so
yeah, that makes more sense.
So
okay, because that confused me. So that cool.
But sense. And also, what's really upsetting, like you said, Diego Luna was not nominated for his performance. Stellan Skarsgård was not nominated for supporting actor for his performance. I thought Skarsgård did amazing.
Yeah, shoo-in, right?
And then, oh my God, what's her name? I'm not the best fan if I don't remember her name.
Fiona Shaw.
Fiona Shaw did not get nominated for supporting actress. Katie Sackhoff did not get supporting actress nomination either. For Mandalorian.
Right. But a certain episode in Andor did get nominated for like the best. I believe it was like I think the category was like the best episode or something like that out of a show for the entire year. And it was the One Way Out episode, which I think is well deserved.
Andy Serkis didn't get guest.
Outstanding writing for a drama series, One Way Out.
It's so good that I still get chills from that episode. And every monologue that a main character, like a main or side character, gave was just chilling. From Andy Serkis's character to Luthen to I can't think of her name at the end of
Fiona Shaw.
Yeah, no, it's just like, all those speeches were just amazing, and you're just like, this is Star Wars, but this is Star Wars in a whole new level. This is crazy, and yeah, it's kind
Fight
of
the
disappointing.
Empire.
Yes, yeah.
That is the craziest thing.
Fight
is
the
you,
Empire.
you can see it. You can see the word. It's like Sigourney Weaver in Galaxy Quest. You could totally see what she said, but they dubbed over it completely, and that
Yeah.
was yeah. But no, I'm really glad Andor got the love it deserved. It's earned because that's a. We were talking about. I was on set the other day, and we were like, "What did you think about this?" And somebody brought up Andor, and a lot of us were just like, "That's the best Star Wars show that's been out in a
So much
in a long
love.
time."
So many
And
good feelings towards that show. Tony Gilroy knocked it out of the park. He did it. Diego Luna was there. Fiona Shaw, brilliant. Stellan Skarsgård, brilliant. Just incredible.
but you hire those you know what you're getting when you hire these actors. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna deliver, and everybody in that cast delivered tremendously. And like I said earlier, I'm a little upset Katie Sackhoff didn't get a supporting actress nod for Mandalorian because I thought she did a great job as Bo-Katan in season 3. She was very good every time she was on screen. I think she stole whatever scene she was in. So
Yeah, being the Katie Sackhoff fan that I am, I was kind of nervous about what kind of performance we were going to get from her. But I think she truly embodies that character of Bo-Katan, and no one had an issue with it. I know she joked about it on another podcast about certain percentages not lying.
oh, oh, lost David. But yeah, a certain percentages not liking Bo-Katan, which we all know how she broke down those percentages. But
Yeah.
I personally think Katie Sackhoff was amazing in Mando season 3, and looking forward to seeing her in more, maybe even in Ahsoka.
That was that was hinted at, and something that a lot of people aren't saying, but is true, is that you do have
I think
the
the
is that the events of Mando season 3 are happening during the same time that the Ahsoka show is happening. So
Mhm.
my guess is maybe Bo contacts Ahsoka and is like, "Hey, I need your help again. We are trying to take back the planet Mandalore. Any chance you can help?" And then Ahsoka's like, "Listen, I'm going through this whole time travel, timey-wimey, like weirdness with Sabine. I can't help you right now. I'm sorry." So I think that's what's gonna happen.
Let me ask you this question, both of you. This is pure speculation, pure Star Wars fun speculation.
Okay.
Is she going to go into the world of worlds, world
Yes.
between worlds?
Yes.
And are we going to see scenes from movies?
Yes.
You're absolutely sure.
I mean, Dave Filoni doesn't introduce something just to introduce, someone, right? So you have Hondo Onaka that, is a side character, but just think how much he has shown up in the Star Wars universe. And now, he's over at Galaxy's Edge, right? It's like,
Mhm.
and then you have the world between worlds. As soon as that showed up, I was like, there's no way that is just there to be there. He is not going to introduce something that's crazy, not to do anything with it. And we saw hints of it in Star Wars Rebels of where you kind of heard echoes from different characters throughout the Star Wars franchise. And I think we're definitely going to see that, but on a larger scale in live action. And I'm telling you right now, we're definitely going to have some type of Clone Wars flashback of some sort. There's no way they want to do it there because this is Dave Filoni. This is 100% Dave Filoni. This is his baby. He has been side by side with everyone working on the show since day one because he wanted to do the show right. So I think we definitely are going to get some type of flashback of Ahsoka in the Clone Wars in some way in live action. I think we're going to have Hayden Christensen come back. We are probably going to see a younger version of Tamara Morrison so we can get more of that, Captain Rex vibe. Because I would be surprised if we didn't see Captain Rex in this, but I think we're also going to see Captain Rex in the Clone Wars as well. And if they don't, missed opportunity. But I think Dave Filoni will deliver on that because he's doing this for the fans. And he knows what we want. And we wanted that in Obi-Wan Kenobi. We didn't get it. We kind of got it in a way of where like it was them, during the Attack of the Clones, type era. But we didn't get like a Clone Wars flashback, which I was hoping that we would get. But Dave Filoni's working on this 100%. So that we're probably going to get something big like that. It's going to be a big reveal. It's going to be the most watched scene out of the entire show. Because honestly, a live action Clone Wars is what a lot of people want. So,
David, what do you think about that?
So you just sparked an idea that I don't think I've thought about yet.
ooh,
So
you're welcome.
if I were doing it, if I was Filoni, this is the way I would do it. You do go back into a classic Star Wars scene, and you go back specifically, let's say, like the throne room scene at the very end of Return of the Jedi with Vader and Luke fighting. When we're watching the movie and the cutaway happens to the space battle, that's when Ahsoka either drops in World Between Worlds and something takes place, and then she's gone by the time the camera cuts back and we see them fighting again.
Yeah,
That's
just like
the way
we
you
did
do
with-
it to keep it in canon.
So they actually did that in the Lego holiday special. They actually did that exactly of what you're talking about. Because of they did that exact scene, and then Rey just comes out of nowhere, and then Darth Vader and the Emperor are like, wait, what's going on? And then like Luke and Rey like fight them together, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is very interesting. But something like that already happened.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Great minds do think alike. It's just it looks like there's so much happening in this show. Like based off the trailers we've gotten, there's a lot happening. And what's always really great about Star Wars? Oh, sorry, David. David will come back.
Just keep going. Just keep
what
going.
what always cracks me up about these Star Wars shows is how much they show in the trailer, and how by episode 4 or 5, you've already seen all the footage from the trailers.
Okay. So here's my thing about that is that I don't feel like we've gotten that much as with the Star Wars shows recently. I think we definitely got that with Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. Because if you watch the second trailer and the first trailer combined, you have all of the main critical story moments from those trailers, like that are from the movie. So as soon as you watch the movie, you feel like you've already watched the entire movie. But with the trailers that we've gotten for Mando and stuff like that, I feel like we've gotten some of the picture, but not the entire picture. So, and especially with Ahsoka, you're right. This last trailer definitely had a lot of action. It had a lot of, it seemed like there were a lot of plot points that were happening. But my hope is that you're wrong. I think that's the main thing I'm hoping, because I don't want the action moments that we saw in the trailer to be the best moments of the entire show.
Well, no, what I'm saying is what I love about it is, yeah, it's a lot of action, a lot of fun, but the fact that there's plot points we have no idea about. Like, we're probably going to get to episode 5, and then we're going to be like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And then we're going to be like, oh, we have no idea what's happening in the last couple episodes. One thing I brought up to my brother, and he was like, oh, please no. I said, how upsetting would it be if the final part of the Ahsoka series is the ending of Rebels, where like the whole Ahsoka series is leading up to that moment when they're gonna go look for Ezra.
I think that's wrong. I
know it's wrong. Yeah, because
right.
in the trailer she has short hair for certain sequences.
Right.
But I was just thinking, because based off the first trailer and a little bit of this trailer, until we saw those moments, I was like, oh my gosh, that would suck so much.
Yeah, it would.
We just get to the ending of Ahsoka and it's the shot for shot remake of the ending of the Rebels finale. We're like, oh great, they're still got to go look for Ezra.
5 years later, yeah.
Are we gonna see? Are they gonna find Ezra? Like, is that gonna be a moment? Because we're seeing Thrawn, but we don't know where in time Thrawn is gonna be. You know what I mean?
So, do you think this is maybe Ezra?
No,
I've heard this.
Nope.
Why is this rumor gaining traction right now, David?
I think it's because of clickbait. I really think that's false. And I can tell you why. Because in the shots, if you look at his feet, he's got alien feet. It doesn't match up. Why on earth would Ezra go to that extent to hide?
Dude, he was hanging out with the whales, man. Things
Hey,
can happen.
those Purgles are just fine. You leave them out of this.
Those look like
But
normal feet to me,
Those are
Colin.
like normal
look,
feet.
nope. I'm not talking about that shot. There's a clear shot where like his feet are different. I really don't think
So you
that's
think there's two
Ezra.
of these guys?
Yeah, I really don't think that's Ezra. If they end up making him Ezra, I think that is a terrible mistake, and the reason why is because it's way too obvious. That's why I'm not thinking about it, because I'm like, that's right there. That is right in our faces, and it's just have them. I feel like the anticipation for them to go look for Ezra is because they have to do it through the world between worlds. Think about it. Ezra and Thrawn went into hyperspace with the windows like completely broken, and then they went to hyperspace. Nobody can survive that. So what better way to save them than getting access to the world between worlds? So you have an Indiana Jones situation, and I've already talked about this, but it's you have the antagonist and you have the protagonist trying to do the same thing. They are trying to get to the main artifact, just like in Indiana Jones, to serve their agenda, right? So Indy always wants to put the thing in the museum. The villains want to, use it for their own purposes. In this case, the antagonists want to save Thrawn. The protagonists want to save Ezra, and they need the world between worlds to do it, so they can pull them out of that time, like right before they go into hyperspace. That makes the most logical sense.
That'd be crazy.
I mean,
Be awesome. And you know what? I love speculation. I love speculation. But man, that gets you in trouble sometimes. If you are, I'm not saying you, Colin, I'm saying everybody. Like, 'cause
yeah.
I've had high hopes for a lot of these things. A lot of plot points I feel like should happen. A lot of things I feel like that needs to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, there's that little bit of a disappointment where you're just like, oh man, really? That didn't. Which is why when you saw Grogu for the first time in Mandalorian, it was huge because you had no idea that was going to happen. You knew there was a baby.
Yeah.
You knew there was some type of Yoda species, but the two of them together didn't make sense. It was like, oh, there's no way that's going to work. And then when you saw Grogu for the first time, it was like, oh my gosh. And then you get to Book of Boba Fett. There's like this hype train of like, there's got to be a big, climactic battle. And then you get to the climactic battle, and you're kind of like, ah, okay, that was that.
I mean, I thought the battle was actually pretty good.
For me, it just kind of went on. But then you get to like Mando season 3, and I kind of gave up on what I thought was going to happen, and then I really liked the finale of season 3.
Right.
It's just one of those things where us Star Wars fans will sometimes hurt ourselves because we have such high expectations.
And
we have such crazy theories of what we want to happen, and when they don't happen, we're a little disappointed.
that backtracks all the way to The Last Jedi. Man, do you remember all the Snoke theories? Oh my gosh, man.
I remember all the Snoke theories, and I remember the hype around Finn fighting Kylo Ren in Episode 7 in Force Awakens.
Yep.
I was like, holy crap, we're getting, and then I was like,
yep, and then they come.
and Snoke dies. You're like, what? And
Yeah.
then Palpatine
Yep.
comes back. You're like, what? And it was just
What?
it was just a little strange. But I feel like us Star Wars fans, we have a movie in our head before we even go watch. We already have the story of the show in our heads before we watch it, and then we're really disappointed when we first see it because it doesn't meet our expectations. So for Ahsoka, I'm doing everything I can to just go into this one without really thinking of the plot points that I want to happen.
It's
That's
not
how
that I want that theory to happen, because I do, but to me that logically makes the most sense if they're going to save those characters, because then you have to think, how did Ezra and Thrawn survive a journey like that through hyperspace? So pulling them out of the time stream, just like Ezra pulled Ahsoka out of the time stream before she got killed by Vader, that makes the most sense to me. And Ahsoka has experience doing that, so that's why it would make sense for Ahsoka to go do it. And the protagonists, of being the villains they are, they would have probably thought of something, very similar. So to me, that makes the most sense. And I think the hunt to find Ezra is going to be the hunt to find the world in a other way to get into the world between worlds, and that's the best way to bring that element into Star Wars and make it make sense. I don't think they're going to have the world between worlds just to be there. I think it's going to play a big part of the story, and to me, logically, that makes the most sense.
I'm mad at
Unless,
you, Colin.
unless Ezra used some type of force bubble type thing, and he like had it just holding in hyperspace the entire time. Because again, how on earth would they survive in the bridge of going into hyperspace? Unless they went to go exit the bridge right before they went, because we didn't see that. Like we saw the ship directly go in, and we saw them on the bridge. So I don't know.
I'm just mad at you, Colin, for bringing that up
Yeah.
because that's great. That's a great plot. That's a great story for the show. And if it doesn't
Yeah.
happen,
I'm sorry.
I wasn't thinking about it until you brought it up. That's what I'm saying. Is now that you brought it up, it's like that makes a lot of sense.
These
That
are the
should
things
happen.
that keep me up at night, James. I'm just letting you know.
these are the things I think about when you. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so Ahsoka coming out. It's gonna be here very, very soon.
August
very
23rd.
soon. And
2
I think
episodes.
2 episodes, the 23rd, and I think it's gonna have a lot of views because there are a ton of Clone Wars fans out there, and a lot of people love Ahsoka. So I think this is gonna have a pretty big, and plus Filoni, he's the one kind of doing it all. So see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I want to recognize this classic game right here, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, otherwise known as KOTOR. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary, which makes me feel not young. And this story is brought to you by Star Wars Newsnet. There's a story here that talks about BioWare, who is now world-renowned, world-famous. Casey Hudson from BioWare, I believe, has a quote here. He said, "We would have been blown away by the player reaction that KOTOR has received over the years. We were pretty ambitious about making something really special. We had no expectations about what would happen next. At that time, BioWare had made some good games already. We just wanted to meet the expectations of quality and make something we would be proud of." And I have so many fond memories of this game, of that time period. It was around the time the first Xbox dropped. I played it on that. Was it available on any other console other than Xbox PC?
The first game was strictly for Xbox.
Yeah, so I was playing that thing hardcore. I'm not a big time RPG person, but it's just one of those games that you can't stop playing. And then like the huge twist that's in the game, it kind of vaulted it to one of the all-time games that was released at the time, and I think still is on top 10 lists of all time of being one of the best, not just Star Wars games, but just overall. The shocking thing that happens, and one of the biggest, I think, one of the fan favorite characters is in that game as well, and just the gameplay itself. I mean, like I said, I was never like a Final Fantasy guy or an RPG guy, but I could totally play this game. I mean, Star Wars element had a lot to do with it, but it was super intriguing and super fun, and it took you back many years before what we saw in live action in the films, and I had a lot of fun with it.
And that's where I want to kind of segue into Star Wars Outlaws, because a lot of people are saying that Star Wars Outlaws is the first open world Star Wars game. And I'm like, did you play Knights of the Old Republic? I mean, that game was so open world, and I know that they're doing that to kind of draw the public's attention, and I get it, I understand. But there were a lot of new details that actually recently did come out. For example, the main ship that you see in the trailer is called the Trailblazer, and it's got a lot of inspiration from a lot of different spaceship models from the 1970s and 80s. And the game features a system a game system where you will be able to talk to a lot of the different factions and clans throughout Star Wars. Some that we know and some that we don't know. Like for example, like what we saw in the trailer, like a big faction that we do know are the Hutts and the Pikes, and that will play a big part in the game. And then you can also select quests and areas can only be accessed if you're on good terms with certain factions, which again, it's a big role-playing game. So again, that's why I'm just like Knights of the Old Republic was like the first big role-playing game. So I don't know why you're doing it, but at the same time, I know you're doing it just to get the public's attention. But and if you're not on a faction's good side, they may send teams to chase you down. And then for the planets and locations, hopping from planet to planet will definitely feel like a journey every time. So if from getting into the ship from the planet you're on, you actually get to go all the way up into space. It's not a cutscene, like you actually get to do it, and then you get to fly like around the planet, and then you can choose what planets you want to go to, and go through hyperspace and then go from there. So it's a limit on the cutscenes that they have, which is pretty cool. And then the size of the planet, a size of one planet might be equivalent to 2 or 3 zones in Assassin's Creed, of the new one. And planet locations are handcrafted and not procedurally generated.
Yeah, not recycled planets, all made from scratch. It's
Yep.
This is
wild.
how much storage are you going to need for this game?
Probably a
lot.
lot. And I'm not even done. There were a lot of details that came out for this, and this game isn't coming out until next year. By the way, we just don't have like an official date of when, but it is coming out next year. The game for combat, the game will offer full freedom of approach when taking on enemies. Nicks can be directed to attack foes, activate out of reach buttons, cause distractions, and more. We actually saw that in the trailer. Nicks was compared to Bioshock's Infinity's Elizabeth and Star Wars Jedi's BD1. That's
her little pet. Yeah.
Yep.
A little dude who runs with her.
Yep. And then for the settings and visuals, the game is set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
I really like that fact.
Yeah, I love the fact that we're going to be hearing things. We're going to be seeing things.
We've definitely had a couple of stories that have taken place during that time. We know that Kira was trying to get Han during that time period, and she was trying to steal him from Boba Fett on his way over to Jabba's palace. I don't think we'll get that story, but like there's different elements. And then also Chewie and Leia actually meets Maz Kanata for the first time during that time period, because she actually gets her bounty hunter disguise by meeting Maz Kanata during the time period. So who knows? We end up might seeing Maz. And then finally, visually, the developers have I can't say the word. It's fine. It's whatever. But basically, the whole vibe of what you're seeing on screen is gonna feel like you're playing a game in the 70s, but with great graphics, and it's gonna feel like that authentic Star Wars experience that was made in the 1970s.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But I'm nervous about it. It's so big. It's so huge. It's probably gonna get pushed back another year. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm afraid of. Is that it's gonna get pushed back to 2025.
It's still on track.
Writers or actors involved?
Well, I mean,
you have voice actors. Yeah.
But before we go on, hold on. So I out of nowhere, just last week, I saw a picture of Lupita Nyong'o and Carrie Fisher together in a scene from The Force Awakens. Like, she wasn't, Maz wasn't fully rendered, but it was just her. They were just talking to each other, and it was like, man, I want to see that scene. I know not what we're talking about, but I still want to see the scene of when
Leia's handing the lightsaber to Maz.
Yeah.
So,
I think we got some recycled. Like, I mean, it wasn't exactly that, but we got something very similar, and like not the exact scene, but I think we got some scenes of where they were together in Rise of Skywalker, but that was recycled footage from The Force Awakens, and then they just kind of put Leia in that area. But
Yeah. But anyways, I'm sorry. You brought up Maz, and I was like, wait a second. I just saw
Yeah.
Maz this past week. But
yeah.
anyways,
So I'm definitely excited for the game. I think we all know how I feel about the customization. I really like if this is truly an open world Star Wars game, a role playing game, give us customization. I think the main character will be great, but I want to be my own character. That's why I love playing these open world games, is so I can see myself in the character that I'm playing. And if they do something very similar to Assassin's Creed, I think that would be great. It's still early in the process. They have time to, do that. They haven't announced if they're doing that. They have not denied that there's not going to be any customization. So going forward, it's going to be really interesting to see what they end up doing. But I am very excited for the game, and I think getting on your own ship and then also like not just your character, but to design your own ship, to design your own blaster, that would be awesome. So just do that. Just do it. Like it's right there in front of you. Just do Star Wars GTA, not to the limit of GTA of what you can do in GTA, but have that game style. Like do that, and people will lose their minds. Disney will make more money than they have ever made in their entire life from a game. It like just honestly, that's what the gaming community wants for a Star Wars game, is a big open world Star Wars game where you can play with friends.
Colin, you almost sounded like George Lucas directing Star Wars there with just do it. It's right there. Just
do it.
Just do it. Just in case I don't know, that was what Harrison Ford said. George Lucas told him.
Yeah.
He said, how do I say this line? And George Lucas was like, just say it.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yeah.
I can't just say that.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand what you're saying. You can just say it, man.
I love that George Lucas was like, just say it and I'll fix it in editing. It's fine.
Yeah.
There will be no way fans will.
Well, okay. So that just sounds like that's coming from you, whoever you Facebook user are, but because they have not officially said that there will be no customization. That has not come from the studio themselves. From all the reports I've seen, I've not seen anything where there will not be any customization, because they're still in the process of making the game and they're trying to finalize everything. So I'm holding on hope. If that's what you want, good for you. But I honestly think that if they add customization, that will be a big game changer going forward. I'm still hoping. And if they have to make a whole separate game, and I got to wait longer. But honestly, I think a big open world Star Wars game where it's like, Red Dead Redemption, GTA style, I think would be very, very cool.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have anything else to talk about in regards to our favorite galaxy far, far away?
I just found out that there's a theater near me that plays old movies, and A New Hope was playing today, and Empire Strikes Back is playing next week. So I'm probably gonna go check that out. I just found this. Somebody was like, "Oh, you live in Anaheim? Well, there's this place," and he told me about it, and I was like, "There's a theater that
on actual film."
Yeah, I don't know what's actual
wow,
film.
That's cool.
I don't know what's actual film, but we'll see. But yeah. So I'm
really
really
to see A New Hope on film would be awesome.
Yep. See, yeah. So
I saw.
But then again, it wouldn't be the special edition, would it? Or special edition was on film, right?
Yes.
So okay.
I had the opportunity of seeing it wasn't. It was the original version of the films that were actually in the theater when it came out. So it wasn't special edition or anything. And I remember watching them in a theater with people because they're having a special event, and I never saw them. I never saw the original versions until a couple of years ago, and I remember just being blown away of just being like, this is what people experienced back in 1977, 1980, and 1983. This is really, really cool. And I wish that they gave more people the opportunity to do that. So, hopefully they do that in the future of where they put it in maybe different certain movie theaters for a limited time. But to have my kid experience like the original version, that would be a dream come true of seeing that with them. And I think a lot of parents that actually had the opportunity to see it when they were younger back in 1977 would also love to show, their kids the original version. So hopefully they do that in the future.
Yeah, I tried that with my kids, Colin. They didn't like it.
Oh, well, your kids aren't really big Star Wars fans on the level that you are, as far as you've told me. So
I've heard some stories as to why George Lucas kept messing with the movies, and I'm not going to say why. But does Kennedy have anything to do with the games?
How are you going to say that on the podcast and not talk about it?
Because it's a rumor. I don't want to go off of rumors.
Well, just say it's a rumor.
It's well, let's
not guilt trip him, David.
Let's address this. Does Kennedy have anything to do with the games? Probably not. She hires her. Lucasfilm has their own video game company, and they are the ones who are overseeing all the video games. She probably hears about it, but she's letting them run that side of the franchise. So yeah, that's my understanding of how they're doing things there, but who knows?
Yeah, it almost feels like the story group is keeping that all kind of in check and making sure that they don't do anything that kind of disrupts canon. And I think once that's done, because I don't think Kathleen Kennedy reads like every book and sees every comic book and that to that level. So unless she is, I mean, that would kind of explain why she didn't see the production of Solo until the last 2 weeks. I mean, what was she doing? That would explain that.
But so the rumor I heard was, of course, we all know the maker went through a nasty divorce back in the 80s.
Oh, yep.
Apparently, she owned a little bit of Star Wars, and he would have to pay her. But the more he changed the movie, the more it wasn't what she owned. And so that paycheck was getting smaller and smaller.
Whoa.
So the rumor has it is the reason he changed it so much was so she would have less of a say and less of an ownership over Star Wars.
Interesting.
So,
that
and
makes
again,
sense.
This is just a rumor.
This is just a rumor.
Sponsored by James Herrera. Just a rumor.
I didn't say. I didn't make this up. I heard this from somewhere. Okay, I heard this from somebody who knew somebody who read something. So
I also know someone that knows someone as well.
But anyways, so that's I'm gonna just leave it at that. There
okay.
All right. Awesome.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that's the podcast. I just like to thank everyone today for joining, for listening, for subscribing to our YouTube. All the people that we met at the Comic-Con car show in San Antonio, subscribe to YouTube. And click the like button, subscribe definitely. If you unsubscribe, resubscribe back. So Instagram.
You won't get rid of us.
Yeah, please don't leave. Come back.
We are also on Instagram. Colin runs that Star Wars Stuff Podcast.
Let's go.
We're also on Threads.
Yeah.
Star Wars Stuff Podcast.
What is this? I'm just kidding. What is Threads?
We're also on Twitter at Stuff Pod. I've communicated with few people on Twitter, especially someone in Australia.
I mean, hey, communication is a great thing to have in a relationship. So there you go. Twitter communication. Let's go. Yeah.
So Twitter @StuffPod, and of course we're on Patreon. We do random episodes. James and I usually will do a Patreon daily. Sometimes Colin, sometimes not. Sometimes other people. And also we're dropping all the Clone Wars commentaries that Christian, Star, Cap, Josh, Colin will do.
Hunter
and Hunter. There's a lot of people.
I'm so gonna tell him that you forgot Hunter. It's fine. Go ahead.
Oh well, he'll listen. He'll hear it. So we're also on TikTok, Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Just search us up there. You can email us if you want. We got a pretty cool email from someone that was at the Comic-Con car show in the audience at the Katie Sackhoff panel, and he was like, "Yeah, I totally raised my hand when Ted asked anyone listen to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast," and he was like, "Yeah." And we heard, me and James were there. We heard like a smattering of clapping, and we're like, "Oh my gosh!"
Wow, people actually care. People actually listen. This is great.
We were like, "Wow,
that was so great."
So yeah,
That's
we
funny.
got an email and I responded, and we're gonna have a conversation now via email and Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. We have an official page. We have a Star Wars Stuff podcast Facebook group. Like I mentioned earlier, Tim Sites, he drops a lot of memes. I drop a lot of
Yes.
memes. Lots of laughs in there. Also, we drop news and try and drop the latest breaking stuff there. Also, if you listen to us on Apple, give us 5 stars, write a review.
If it ends up being about David, it's
A nice
totally
review,
fine.
yeah, that much appreciated. Also on Spotify, give us 5 stars there.
Yep.
Be very helpful for the podcast.
Which David just told me this, and I didn't know this, but if you go on Spotify and if a podcast actually does like a recording of not just the audio but the visual as well, it will show up on Spotify. So you can see our lovely faces on Spotify as well, which is pretty cool. So
That's only if I load the video, which is not
okay,
often,
so
Colin.
David will load the video and you will see our lovely faces.
You are not giving me extra work, Colin. So we also have StarWarsStuffPodcast.com. This is really new. James has written a few really good articles on there. Colin is about to write one. Ray just added one for the month of June. And I think I'm going to write something in regards to the Comic-Con car show. The whole Katie Sackhoff Ming Na Wen experience, because it was really cool. And we did a podcast about it, but I think there's more that you'd like to read and see. So, yeah, check us out there. And that is it. I'm looking at the comments here. Someone's off to cut their grass. So
Nice.
Well, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. No, what kind of lawnmower are you using?
On that note, thank you very much for joining us, and may the force be with you always. This is the way.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Nerds.